Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. And it's just Marco here to review Ford v Ferrari, the new 2019 movie. And it's a movie, it's not a sequel, a reboot, a remake, a comic book adaptation, it's a real movie. And I know that sounds weird, but it's true. Like it's so depressing and exhausting to go in the theater and see these movies that are just so unoriginal and trash and really bottom of the barrel, like really low effort. Like these studios, they just think that people will accept anything nowadays, and that's really what it is that people, they will accept anything that they're given. You'll see all these people after they see any movie the whole year, like Zombieland 2, Glass, Toy Story 4. They'll just see that movie and there'll be people who say, "Oh, this is the greatest movie of all time." And this movie is better than Shawshank. It's better than all those real movies. And you can't criticize me, because and then months later they won't say a word because they know that what they said is BS. And that's what this whole year has been. I mean, it's really been terrible this year. I mean, I thought that 2016 was a bad year in movies. I mean, 2016 with that horrible feminist Ghostbusters and all that other stuff, all those trashy movies. I mean, we basically that year the only good stuff was like Logan. I mean, not Logan, Deadpool and The Nice Guys, and everything else was basically trash. And so this year, in my humble opinion, this year is even worse because we have all these movies that are sequels and remakes and reboots, and they're all mediocre slash bad. And none of them will be movies that I will ever remember and after a year. I mean, let's face it, I'm not going to rewatch Glass ever again. I'm going to forget about that movie and hope that I never have to watch it again for this channel or something else like that, because I mean, it was horrible. But with Ford v Ferrari, I mean, I wanted to preface that because it's very important when is to have context when talking about this movie, because you might think that I'm overrating this movie or overhyping it, but really it's just a product. Same thing with the Joker. It's just a product of all the other bad movies this year to overrate the good movies. That happens a lot, whenever you have best pictures, they're always overhyped and overrated. And like even last year, Black Panther, putting that in the best picture category, not even nominating. Bad Times, the El Royale, House That Jack Built, like tons of those incredible movies, and choosing Black Panther because it's a Marvel movie, like stuff like that. You'll get that every year, and with Ford v Ferrari, I'm gonna overrate it a little bit because I really enjoyed this movie and it was a breath of fresh air to me. It was like being in a city full of fog and smoke and then finding this one building where you can go inside. It has no windows, it's sealed up tight, and you go in there and it smells really beautiful. And you're safe from all the fog and the smoke and the desolation outside. That's what Ford v Ferrari is to me. Because let's face it, I didn't have any. Oh, I mean, yeah, those stupid things to say. I didn't have any like high expectations for this movie in terms of like, oh, I hope this movie does this with this character. I hope this movie does this storyline from the comics. I hope this movie does this with Charles Manson. I looked at this movie and I put this as my second most anticipated movie of the year. And let me tell you, it did not disappoint. I loved this movie. From the moment it starts, I mean the first second of the movie, vroom, and you have this Matt Damon racing, and this whole movie. I was so happy watching this movie. It felt like such an honor to go to the theater and watch it, to review it, and to see this piece of art that people put effort into, and this movie that has a story worth telling. And I had to go to the bathroom, and the movie was so good that the whole first act and second act of the movie, I was debating on when I should go to the bathroom. Like, because here's something about screenwriting. They tell you when you write a movie, every single scene should have a purpose. You should not have any scenes where, like, you're just doing stuff for the F of it. You're just having these scenes that happen that, like, oh, these scenes have to happen. Such as in Doctor Sleep, spoiler alert, kind of. I mean, it whatever. They have to have these scenes that have to do with the parents and, like, how they all get out of the picture so that she can go off with Danny by herself. Like, scenes like that really feel like they're forced, like, we have to have these scenes, or let's just throw a scene of this in. This movie had none of that. Every single scene in this movie felt 100% necessary, and it really broke my heart because I left at the scene where they have a fight, where and this is not a spoiler because it's in the trailer, but it's just a friend fight, a fun friend fight, like men wrestle with each other. And it's funny because we had that stupid feminist Gillette commercial that showed, like, the boys fighting, and then, like, boys will be boys, and it's like, yeah, this is what boys do. And I had to leave to go to the bathroom during this amazingly fun looking scene. And then when I came back, it was over, and everyone else in the theater was having so much fun. They were laughing when I opened the door and I was walking, and I mean, they loved this scene. And, like, just that, but really, the whole movie felt like this. The whole movie felt like every single scene you would just enjoy the acting and the directing and everything that was going on in terms of story. There are some issues with the movie, which I'm sure is no shock to anyone on here watching, because I have an issue with practical. I mean, I could criticize anything. Fright Night is my favorite movie of all time. I could rip Fright Night to shreds if I wanted to, but I don't feel like it. Like, and it's the same thing with this movie. Like, there are some flaws, like the music, but really, I mean, the music, it's just okay. It's really not very good compared to all the other movies' music this year. I mean, Avengers Endgame, it was a horrible, mediocre movie, but the music was good in some parts, better than this movie. And then you have, like, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Come on, Rambo: Last Blood, where at the end, I mean, just that one song where they're in the tunnels and he turns on music and you think it's like for him to enjoy killing these people, and, like, you're like, oh, this guy's gotten sick, and, like, oh, this is so cool though. It's so badass. And then, like, Joker had that original score, and I don't know if you know this, but she wrote the soundtrack, or I mean the score to Joker before they even shot it. So she wrote it based off of the script and just feeling that out. I mean, she's really, whoever, I can't remember her name exactly. I don't want to mispronounce it or anything, because she's a fantastic composer, and she did that just off of the script. And that's probably the best music of the whole year. But with this movie, the music was just, it just wasn't as good as it could have been. They had one song that was a good song, but they used it like 3 or 4 times. I mean, it was really weird. Like, I was like, ooh, we're gonna have a new cool song. Oh wait, no, we're gonna listen to the other song that we've already heard before in the movie. Oh, is this point in the movie? Are we gonna listen to a new song? Oh no, it's that one song again. Like that's what I felt like when listening to the music. The music really kind of took me out a little bit, but not enough to make me mad. I'm just saying, just like with the South Park thing where I talked about how they made it look like every girl in the school was interested in board games. Just like that, it didn't really make me angry. It's just I had to mention it. And then, as well, I also got to mention something else that bothered me, but not very much. John Bernthal. He is in this movie, and he does a great job. I mean, he's. It seems like he's going to be like one of the main characters of the movie, and this is not a spoiler because he's in the whole movie. Nothing happens with him, but he is such an integral part to the first part of the movie, and then he basically just disappears. I mean, he basically he's there in the background, and in those biopics about those people, talented people, you'll have like those side characters who stand around and smile and go like, "Oh yeah, good job. Oh yeah, this guy's legendary," or saying stuff like that. Like he became a side character, or I mean, a background character even in his own movie, and so that's what I felt about him. I really think that he's gotten the short end of everything this year because I mean he's also in the Peanut Butter Falcon, which I hated, but in that movie he was in the movie and he they didn't even allow him to speak. I mean they would show these scenes with him and he would just be sitting there talking with music playing over it and no sound on, and so we didn't even have the honor of hearing him speak in that movie. Like he's really gotten shoved to the side this year, and he's such a great actor. Even when he's not able to speak, I mean he's really gotten shortchanged this year because he was actually a highlight of the movie, and I thought, oh my God, is he gonna be as good as Christian Bale and Matt Damon in this movie, even though he's like this side character? Nope. Sorry. Sorry, John Bernthal, because they pushed you aside. I mean, that's not a bad thing. It's something that I noticed, and that it made me think, like, I wish that John Bernthal was more involved with the rest of the plot a little bit, because he did such a great job. And then let's get to Christian Bale and Matt Damon. I mean, come on, it's been 13 minutes. I haven't even talked about the best part of the movie. I went into this movie, I didn't think it would be a buddy movie as much as it was. Because, I heard the plot. I thought we were going to have, like, these two teams. And we were going to see each team, like, side by side, doing different things, testing different things, having debates about which racers, I guess, to do. I mean, I don't know a lot about racing cars or anything, so whatever. On both sides. But instead, this movie was a buddy movie to the B in buddy. It was such a buddy movie, such a movie about friendship and about two people who are really good at what they do and trying to do something great with all the horrible things going on around them. Because in this movie, I'm not going to spoil anything, it's just Christian Bale has conflicts he has to overcome. Matt Damon has conflicts he has to overcome. They both have to help each other, and they both have to rely on each other the whole movie. And that dynamic was just fantastic to watch. Sorry, everybody. And so yeah, that's what this movie really was. It was a buddy movie. There was tons of racing too, a lot of racing. I mean, even more racing than I could have ever imagined. I mean, the whole reason I was excited for this movie was because of the director and the actors. Because the director, he did Logan. And my favorite scene in Logan was the scene where he is in the truck with Laura. I think that's what her name was. And they were driving and they were being chased, and then they drove through the fence and they used the fence to kill all these other people and to make them crash because they just couldn't break through the fence. And so that was my favorite scene in that whole movie. And it was a scene involving cars, involving, this type of stuff that you'd see in a racing movie, not with like a fence, not with killing people, of course. Well, maybe killing people, but not on purpose. And so in this movie, perfect. The director did a perfect job. He did exactly what I wanted him to. He did such a great job with the action in this movie. This is probably some of the best action of the whole year. I don't think it's better than Rambo Last Blood, and it's definitely better than Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, though, in terms of action. And so, yeah, I love this movie. And another thing is the wife. In a lot of these biopic movies, we always get the wife who's at home worrying, and she has lots of fights with her husband, and she yells at him for doing things that she doesn't like him to do, and like constantly in these biopic movies. And I love movies that don't have that, because those are the type of things that always feel forced. Like, oh yeah, here's the wife, she's gonna be like all the other wives in biopic movies. But the wife in this Ford versus Ferrari movie, she was cool. She was badass. The wife in this movie, she loved cars just like her husband did. She came to comfort him at certain moments when he was at work, working really late. She was worried about him in one scene, but it was so cool because once she heard something that he told her, she completely switched, and she's probably the greatest wife in a biopic or a history movie that I have ever seen. And that's high praise coming from me, very anti-feminist, anti-forced stuff in movies, to say that she's probably one of the best actors of the whole movie and one of the best characters. And also, I loved the Ferrari people. I loved, I loved all the cast. All the cast of the movie was great. The worst one was probably the Ferrari driver, because he was fantastic in the car, and but he didn't really get any scenes about him, like any dialogue scenes. Like I wanted to know a little bit more about him, and he was just kind of like the Apollo Creed, like, oh, I'm just the guy who's been champion. I'm just the badass guy who's driven Ferrari to all these wins. Like he didn't really have much to him, but they didn't. I'm kind of glad that they didn't at the same time, because it might have been an unnecessary scene. This movie was about this duo of people, and that's why I'm gonna rate this movie. And people might kill me for this. I'm gonna rate it spaghetti and meatballs. And now it's just classic spaghetti and meatballs. And from a restaurant, though. It's a restaurant. You can tell this movie, it's a biopic movie. It's a history movie. It's got those kind of outlines in it. The difference between this and Dolomite Is My Name is that this movie does it extremely well. Sorry that the audio cut off there. There was a package that came. I wanted to get it really quickly. So yeah, I was talking about spaghetti and meatballs, because I'm sure that you guys might know this. Spaghetti is my favorite food of all time. And I want to make a very clear distinction, because spaghetti is my favorite food, but only homemade spaghetti of my mom's recipe, or should I say, I guess, my family recipe for spaghetti. That is my favorite food of all time, and I separate that kind between all the other different types of spaghetti you could get. You might get spaghetti at a pizza place, and I like doing this. When we go out of town, I get spaghetti at a pizza place, and I expect it to be mediocre, but it's like, it's fun to have it once in a while. It's pizza place spaghetti, and sometimes it can actually be really good. And then there's also restaurant spaghetti, and restaurant spaghetti is very distinct because it's always very sweet. The sauce, the noodles are always really thick, and the meatballs are always, just okay. And that's the thing. Meatballs go really well with spaghetti, but they're never done right. Have you ever noticed that? Like, a lot of meatballs are different. There are a lot of meatballs that are horrible and dry. Like, there was this one pizza place that I went to this year, I think in Columbus somewhere, and there were these huge meatballs, and they were horrible. They were tasteless. They they tasted like, ugh. They were just terrible, and they had like really saltiness to them too. Like, for some reason it was like they knew that it didn't taste like anything, and so they're trying to cover it up with a lot of salt. And then there's one place where they do like a huge meatball, and so meatballs are really hard to nail, but when they're good, they're really good at a restaurant. And so that's what I give Ford v Ferrari. You have this classic pairing of spaghetti and meatballs. And it's a very high-end meal. It's a very classic meal. It's a very rich meal that you eat and you feel really full afterwards. You don't want any dessert. And that's what I give this movie. It was a lot different than what I expected. It's a duo movie. It's a buddy movie, just like with the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And so, yeah, that's what I give Ford v Ferrari. I give it spaghetti and meatballs from a restaurant. And I don't really have any spoilers for this movie. I guess, okay, spoiler alert. My favorite line of the movie is when I think the Ferrari guy loses and Matt Damon says, "I don't speak Italian, but that guy sounds angry." Or that guy doesn't sound very happy. And I love that. That was a great line, and it felt like sweet victory listening to that piece of dialogue. And then this movie did almost make me cry too. I resisted crying a lot at the end of this movie because, and this is spoilers, so spoiler alert, Christian Bale dies, and it's very sudden, and there's another part in the movie where you think he's gonna die too, and I thought, oh, maybe Matt Damon is gonna have to take over and overcome his blood pressure problems, but Christian dies, and you see the impact, and you see Matt Damon doesn't really have any reaction. And then at the end of the movie, he takes the wrench or whatever it was to the kid, and I think he gives it to him, and it's like a symbol of Christian Bale's character, Ken, and he finally breaks down in his car. I think that's how it went, and just that whole ending was just very emotional to me. Just like with Logan. I mean, Logan. The problem with that movie is I didn't really feel anything watching the whole movie. Like, I didn't feel any danger or anything. But at the end of the movie, when Logan died for no reason, I really got emotional during that, when he was dying. And the same thing in this movie, that ending. Very emotional, but I love this movie. It was such a great movie for the year of crappy reboots, remakes, and sequels. Such a great movie. And I completely recommend this movie. Don't go see Charlie's Feminazis. Go see Ford vs. Ferrari. Don't go see Joker, the most overrated movie of the year. For the millionth time, go see Ford vs. Ferrari. And I'm saying Joker is overrated finally because it hit $1 billion. And I'm sorry, but even though I love this movie, it does not deserve $1 billion for what it did. It deserves I would say 600,000. So yeah, Joker's overrated. Ford vs. Ferrari is great. This year of movies sucks, I guess, is the ending I'm going for. And if you'd like to see my true thoughts on all of my other movies from this year, go check them out. I have like Child's Play, Three from Hell. Ugh, God. And guys, this is something really embarrassing. I had Three from Hell as the most anticipated movie of the year. Ugh. Oh, God, was I far off on that one. Oh, God. Oh. But anyways, goodbye, everyone.